Hi guys, I welcome you all to this tutorial. So the tutorial today is going to be focused on how to set up our IDE for JSP and Servlet web application development. So we have a couple of options. We can make use of Eclipse as an IDE, and Eclipse has been there for a very long time. This is the home page for Eclipse where you can get the Eclipse download. So we can also use VS Code. We can also use IntelliJ. So we have all these options. But in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up Eclipse to for your JSP and Servlet web application development. So after that, we are going to move to how to do the same thing on VS Code, because VS Code is the thing these days. We are also going to set up our VS Code to for JSP and Servlet application development. So to download Eclipse, the first thing, you come to the website here and then you click on the download page. The website is eclipse.org. You go to the download and then you want to download these files here. So you click on download. So it's for 64 bits and 32 bits, and then you click on download on the file here. So depending on your internet connection, I already have my download here. So you double click, it's the exe file downloaded to run the program. So with the Eclipse IDE, you don't need to do any extra setup in order to get started with any form of Java application development. It is pretty straightforward. All you just need to do is to create a new Java project and connect your Tomcat server to the project, and then everything works as expected. So on running the .exe file, you are greeted with this pop-up screen. So you have different options of Eclipse that you can install from the options that we have here. So the one you want to select is the Eclipse IDE for Java and web developers. So you select that. So it automatically detects our JDK part that we have already installed from the last meeting that we had, JDK 23, and then you accept the defaults and then you click on install. So you accept the license agreement, accept now. So the installation process starts. So the installation is completed, as you can see from my screen here. All you just need to do is to launch the IDE. So it asks for my workspace. I'm fine with this workspace location. All I just need to do, use this as default and do not ask again, and then I click on launch. So that's the location, that's the default location that is going to create our project and our project files. So the installation is all done and our IDE is up and running. So you can select the second option here and click on proceed. So let's create a sample web project. So we click on create new Java web project. So you give your project a name. For instance, you can say first JSP project. So after we have this name, is going to be saved in our default location, which is the Eclipse workspace, and then stroke the folder name. So the next thing here is to select the target runtime. You click on new target runtime. You expand, you open up the Apache, and then if you remember from our last tutorial, we already installed Tomcat 11. So you select Tomcat 11 from the option here. You check create new local server, and then you click on next. So the next thing here is to browse for the Tomcat installation directory. So you click on browse. So that's in our C drive. If we go to the C drive, programs, Apache Software Foundation, Tomcat 11. So you select this folder. So there we have it, and then you click on finish. So after that, you click on next. You click on next, and then you click on finish. So you can see on the side here, our project is created. If you open up the project, we go to the source folder, the main folder, then we have all the folders as needed. There is our web.xml, the deployment descriptor. So if you go to the source, so we are up and running and ready to start developing our applications using the Eclipse ID. So in the web.xml, we have our XML file that defines our application name and then the welcome file list. So what it means is that we have to create a first file that is going to have any of this name. So I'm going to go with the first name, which is index.html. So what that means is that I'm going to right click my project, I'm going to create a new HTML file, and I'm going to call that index.html. So that is index.html. Click on next and then you click on finish. So index.html has been created, which is the file here is saved in our web app file. So our web app file is going to contain all our HTML files, JavaScript, CSS, images, and the likes. So in here, so change the title. So let's assume it's a first web app, and then in the body of the page, let me put an h1 tag and say hello from first web app. So we have that. So if you go to the bottom of the page here, we have the server section. So if you go to the server section, you can see that we have our Tomcat 11 server here, which is stopped by default. So if you want to start that, you can always right click on it and say start. So optionally, if you don't get, so we have this error: starting Tomcat 11 at local host has encountered a problem. The server cannot be started because one or more of the ports are invalid. Open the server's editor and correct the invalid port. Okay, I think my port 8080 is in use by another application, so let me just press OK on this. So to change your server ports, you can double click on your Tomcat server to open its configuration settings. So you go to the port section here where it says HTTP ports. So by default we are using 8080. So if I change this to 8081, Control S to save on my keyboard, you save the file, and then let's try to restart the server again and see. So after changing the port, the problem still persists. So just make sure to change the admin port to x082 and then the HTTP port to x081. Right click on the server. If you right click on the server and start it over again, I think that starts the server. So the admin port and the HTTP ports, make sure that they are running on different ports. So as you can see here, it says that my server has started. Another problem that you can encounter when working with Eclipse IDE, let me close this and save it. So is that sometimes you might not find this server tab open by default. So if you go to the window here, you can always go to show. You can always go to the show view menu, and then you click on servers here. So by default, that's going to give you your servers tab here. So optionally, you might want to select where you want your application to appear in. So we have the option of using internal web browser. We have the default system web browser, and then we have the option to select another server. Let's assume I select Microsoft Edge here. So I'm going to right click my index file to run my application. Right click your index file and click on run as, run on server. So we are greeted with this error when trying to run our application. So this problem is an issue with the project facets not being compatible with our install version of Tomcat, which is Apache Tomcat 11. So to solve this problem, you right click on the project and then you go to properties, So you want to search for facet here, project facets. So you click on that. So on our dynamic web module here, we change the version here from 6.1. Let's change it from 6.1 to 5.0. So we have that. You click on apply and close. So we save that, and let's try the process again. Run as run on server and see if the problem persists. So you select the Tomcat, the server that you want your application to run on. You click on next, and then you click on finish. So restart the server and run. That's okay for me. So that should launch my Edge browser and load my application on it. So voila, my application is running on my browser. So this is how you can work with Eclipse IDE to create a JSP and Servlet application. So guys, just to proceed, I have this downloaded Bootstrap template here. So let me show you quickly. If you go to my index.html, so I have this Bootstrap template here. So I want to integrate this with what we have on our web page quickly. So the first thing first, I'm going to right click my project. I'm going to create a new JSP Servlet. I click new, file new, and then you go to Servlet, select the Servlet here. So the name of the package, you can just use com.example here. Class name, you can just call it application Servlet. So you click on next. You click on next. So so you select the abstract method that you want to use. For now, we are just going to work with the do-get and do-post methods, and then we click on OK. So what that gives us is that it creates our servlet for us. So if we go to the Java resources here, so if you open that up, so we have our servlet here with our package com.example and then our servlet. So you can remove all these default comments, not needed. So now we want the servlet to run when the application starts. So we don't want to target this URL. We want to target only the /, meaning it's going to target the default URL when the application starts. So let's remove all these default comments first. So the first request when the application starts is usually the GET request that displays the home page. So in the, knowing that, that means that we are going to modify the do-get method that we have here. So in here, let's just clear this quickly. So since we are going to have a lot of pages in our application, so it makes sense to create a string variable, string action. It's equal to, we get the requested URL from the user. That is request dot get servlet path. So basically what this is going to do is that it's going to give us the path, this for the home page. Maybe if you want to load the about page, maybe something like this for the about page, the services page, and so on and so forth. So what that is going to, all those action as what gets saved in the action variable that we created here. So now that we have the action created in the action variable, the next thing is to display different pages based on the action that the user selected. So we're gonna have a case. So case whereby the URL is services. So we are going to have a method here. Sorry, my code is a mess right now. So let's assume we have a method that says show services So you pass in the request and the response object, and then you put a break statement here. So you can see here that show services method is not yet created. So you click on this this red arrow here, and then you click on create method to create the method. So what it does is that it creates the private method for you here at the bottom. So we'll come to this show services method. We'll come to it later, but then I just want to call the default section of the switch statements that is going to show the home page. So we have show home page that is going to get the request, and of course the response, and then you can put a break statement as well here. So show home page, you click on the red arrow and then you press enter here to generate the method. So we have show home page here as well. So basically what this is telling you in a nutshell, that when the default section here is what load first when the application loads in our browser. The default section runs. So let's sort out the private methods. For the home page, so we're gonna use our request dispatcher. So request dispatcher. So I just noticed that the code completion is not feature is not working in the Eclipse IDE here. So go to Windows, you go to Preferences, you want to go to Java, and then you go to Editor. In the editor, you go to Content Assist. So in this auto activation triggers for Java, after the dot you put A B C D up to Z. A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y, and then you click on apply and close. So what that gives you, for instance, when you want to use the request dispatcher class, you have it there, request dispatcher. Request dispatcher, you call it dispatcher, is equal to request, which is the HTTP servlet request that we have passed here as a parameter. So request dot get request dispatcher. Request dispatcher, and then you put in the location to the file that you want to display. In our instance, we want to display the first file that we have in our web app project, which is the index.html file in our web app folder. Sorry. So index.html. So, and then we say dispatcher dot forward, and then we pass in the request and the response. So it says there's an unhandled exception. So you had the throws declaration on the method header, so that solves the problem. So throws servlet exception and input output exception. So that's it, solves it for that. So for the next one, for the services, is the same thing. We can just copy and paste the code. So for the services, we are probably going to have services.html that we have not yet created. So it might throw an error. So you click on the red arrow here, and then you have the throws declaration here. You press enter on your keyboard. So you'll agree with me that we don't have this services.html created yet in our folder. So In our web app folder here, we can also create folders in our web app folder. So for instance, if I create a home folder, so I click on finish. In my home folder, I can create a new HTML file there that I'm going to call services.html or JSP, whichever one you want. Click on next. I think everything is just fine. So if I can put an h1 tag here and say services. So in my home folder, I have the services folder. So what that means is that in my servlet here, I'm going to say home/JSP because my services file is in the home directory. So now that we have this, the next thing is to specify the location for our CSS and JavaScript and images file. So that we can have in our web app folder as well. So if we right click and say new folder, so let's assume we call this folder resources as the name of the folder. So in resources, we are going to have other folders in resources. Let's assume I have a folder images in resources. Let me right click resources again. I create another folder, CSS, and then I click again and click the JS folder. So we have this. The reason why I'm doing this is that if you check the template that we are about to use here, we have it has some CSS, and obviously it also has some Bootstrap and JavaScript and jQuery file. So if you check the Bootstrap, so all these files we need to link them appropriately in our web page in order for it to work and show the interface as required. So if we go to the CSS file again, to the HTML file of our template that we want to use, if I right click on this and open with VS Code, so we have this. You can see here we are using the CSS file in the vendor folder in Bootstrap main.css. We are also using the front page.css. So let me just copy these two CSS links. So in our file, so we are using bootstrap.css. Let me copy the bootstrap.css quickly. So if I can minimize this CSS, we are using the front page.css. So I'm just going to click and drag this to my CSS file here. Copy file. So in my CSS folder, I have the front page.css. Let me copy the other CSS files that are needed. I think we also have in the vendor folder, we are also using the bootstrap in the CSS folder. We're also using the bootstrap. Let's use this minified version, bootstrap.main.css. So we have that. For the images, we have no image yet, but I believe you can add that on your own. So optionally, the JavaScript file, bootstrap.main.js, you can add that here too. So if you have any images that you want to add, you can also add that. Maybe for instance, if you want to use jQuery, you can also use the jQuery main.js. So now that we have imported our JavaScript files into our project, now the next thing is to copy the link here and try to link them appropriately in our web page. So let me go to, let's start with the index.html first in the head section of the page. So I'm just going to paste the link there. So let me remove the comments. So the link here is different from ours. So ours, it is resources /. So we remove this bootstrap link. So ours is resources /CSS, which is in the CSS folder, and then in there we have the bootstrap main.css, which is the same file that you have here, bootstrap main.css. So same thing for the front page. So that's going to be resources /. So we have resources here /CSS and then front page.css. So other JavaScript file that we might have in the footer section of the page, we can also link them appropriately the way those have been linked. So the page makes use of the jQuery main.js and bootstrap bundle main.js, which I've added just before the closing body tag here. So if we had that, so we adjust the link appropriately. So this is going to be in the resources /JS. So that is going to be resources /JS. So we have the CSS files all linked properly. So now that we have this, all we just need to do is to right click on our index.html, right click, run as, run on server to see if the changes apply. So we click on next and then we click on finish. Let's restart the server, obviously. So we have an error here that says servlet exception, servlet execution true, and exception. So we have an error on our line 35 in the show home page in our application servlet. So let's quickly look at that. Application servlet on line 35. So basically this is because we have not set the context path for our resources folder that we are using to load up our HTML, CSS, and images file. So you need to add a servlet mapping in our web.xml file. So let's go to our web.xml file. So after the welcome file list here, we paste this here in our browser. So in our IDE, sorry. So servlet mapping, the servlet name, we keep it as default. The URL pattern is resources, meaning the resources folder that we have here, / and then anything after the /. So basically what we are doing here is that we are registering the URL for our resources that we are using in our application. So we save this. So we stop the running application and then we right click our index.html, run as, run on server. So after doing that, so we make sure to rename our index.html file. We right click on it and then we try to rename it to index.jsp. So we do that because we are loading them from a servlet, so we have to do that. So same thing applies for our folder in our file in the home folder, which is services. So we have to rename that to services.java server pages. So we have that. So lastly now, since we have renamed both files, index.jsp, services.jsp, we right click and then run as, run on server. So we click on next and then we click on finish. So there is our file with the HTML and CSS, the CSS and JavaScript changes applied in it. So it follows that if you want to add this other content the way it is right now, maybe the footer, the header section, and whatever is in the body tag here, you can add them into your file. So if I open the JSP file again and then I paste in all those content as it is in the file. a hard refresh here. So here's the changes apply. So to change the content, you can start by changing all the content. Maybe you rename this to first app. So you can start by modifying all the content as you wish. If you go to your browser and refresh, so you have it there, first app. So in this same fashion, you can copy the same content that you have here and duplicate that in your services file. So for the content, so we have the navigation, the header, the container. So in the container here, we have some rows. So let me delete all the rows that we have here. Let me confirm that I've changed the link. So in my servlet, the file is no longer services.html, is now services.jsp. So I will not forget to do that. So let me just stop my server because I've made changes to the servlet as well, and then just rerun it. Right click, run as, run on server. So select that, finish. So we have that. So that is the home page. So if we go to the services page, here's the services page with our changes already applied. So that's it, guys.